Hello and welcome to another exciting episode of the Bible in 1 Year with the Preacher's Husband. Today we're reading through 1 Samuel chapter 25 through 27. Tomorrow we're going to do Psalm 17, Psalm 35, Psalm 54, and Psalm 63. So that'll get you ahead for tomorrow. Now, today, these were amazing stories. So I'm going to focus on that. Instead of getting too deep into the meanings of words and things like that I tend to get bogged down into sometimes, I'm just going to summarize the story a little bit today. Now, right off the bat, chapter 25, verse 1, Samuel died. What a way to kick off the Bible for the day, huh? Samuel died. And all Israel assembled to mourn for him, and they buried him by his home in Ramah. Now, a man in Maon had a business in Carmel. He was a very rich man, and he had tons and tons of livestock, thousands of them. The man's name was Nabal, and his wife's name was Abigail. Okay, now Abigail, was a very intelligent woman. She was very beautiful, but this man, Nabal, he was kind of harsh and evil with his dealings, and a bit stingy in a way. Well, David sent 10 young men to him to basically go and ask them for some help, for some stuff. Since David at one time had protected his people, Nabal's people, he thought it was about that time to repay that favor, so to speak. So he basically sent 10 men and said, go tell him, let my young men find favor with you. And he asked him for some stuff, whatever he could give him. Well, Nabal said, who is this David? And who is this Jesse's son? Many slaves these days are running away from their masters. No, I ain't giving you nothing, essentially. So David's young men came back and reported that to David. And he said to the men, all of you, put on your swords. They were going to battle. So David put on his sword too and took off. Now one of Nabal's young men informed Abigail, the wife, about what was happening, that David was coming. And basically said, look, David sent messengers from the wilderness to greet our master, but our master screamed at them. These were the same men that were treating us very well. So she was kind of appalled, like, oh no, what am I going to do? So the dude said to her, consider carefully what you do next. And Abigail hurried. She took 200 loaves of bread, a bunch of wine, and sheep, and grain and raisins, and she basically piles all this up on donkeys, says, y'all go ahead of me and take this straight to where David's men are coming. I'll be right behind you. Well, as she rode, she saw David, and David had just said to his men, I guarded everything that belonged to this man in the wilderness for nothing. He was not missing anything, yet he paid me back evil for good. May God punish me, and do so severely, if I let any of his males survive until morning. Well, when Abigail saw David, she quickly got off the donkey, and she knelt down with her face to the ground and paid homage to David. Of course, people who are kings or about to be kings tend to like that. And she basically said, please, please pay no attention to my husband. He's worthless, fool. His name even means stupid. That's how dumb he is. Here's a bunch of stuff. Let this gift your servant has brought to you, my lord, be given to your young men who follow my lord. Please forgive your servant's offense. And David thinks about it and says, you know what? This is some cool stuff. You're pretty sincere. I think I'm going to do it. Yep. All right. Good deal. Blessed be the Lord of Israel, David said, who sent you to me today, because today you kept me from participating in bloodshed. And then David basically said, yeah, give me your stuff, and that she had brought to him. He said, go home in peace. So Abigail went home, and she was going to tell her husband what happened, but he was drunk as a skunk. He absolutely wasn't in any shape to be hearing or understanding what she was saying at all. So he passes out, so she waits till in the morning. And in the morning, she tells her husband what all happened the previous day. And it says here, his heart died, and he became a stone. About 10 days later, the Lord struck Nabal dead. Well, David heard about this, and he's like, well, since the Lord brought Nabal's evil deeds back on his own head, wonder what's going to happen to this Abigail chick. She was really smart and pretty beautiful, too. So hey, won't you send some messengers out there and talk to her about marrying me? And of course, Abigail said yes. She said yes. Yay! So David married her, and then he also married another girl named Ahinoam of Jezreel, and the two of them became his wives. He already had a wife at first, but Saul had taken Michal and given her away to somebody else. So she's gone. She's out of the picture at this point. So then we're moving on to chapter 26, and this is where David spares Saul. So David, he was living in the wilderness at the time, and Saul found out where he was, and Saul started going after him. David found out that Saul was coming after him, and he says, okay, here's what I need. I need somebody to go with me. And Abishai said, I'll go with you. And David and Abishai, however you pronounce it, came to the troops. They went to where Saul was camped out there. And there was a big circle of troops, and Saul was lying there asleep right in the middle of the camp, in the middle of the circle of the camp. And he was laying there asleep with a spear stuck in the ground right next to his head. So they come right up to Saul. Nobody woke up. And Abishai said to David, God has delivered your enemy to you today. Let me thrust this spear through him into the ground just once. I won't even have to strike him twice. I can kill him. But David's like, no. Don't destroy him. We're going to let him live. So instead, David took the spear and the water jug that was sitting next to Saul's head, and they went on their way. No one saw him, no one knew, and no one woke up. So David crossed over and goes up on top of this mountain at a distance, and he starts hollering at the troops down there, hey! And then they start answering back, and Saul wakes up and says, hey, that sounds like David's voice. He's like, that's you, David? And David's like, yeah, it's me, buddy. He said, why have you done this to me? David says, why are you pursuing me, your servant? What have I done to you? And then he goes on and explains to him that I just spared your life. I've got your spear in my hand. I've got your water jug in my hand to prove it. I could have killed you, but I let you live. And Saul responded, saying, I have sinned. Come back, my son David. I'll never harm you again, because today you considered my life precious. I have been a fool. I've committed a grave error. Now, those are pretty miraculous words and kind words, considering he just suited up his whole army to come and kill David. So David answers, here's the king's spear. Go have somebody of your people come over here and get it for you. So they did. But David just went on his way. And he decides to flee to the land of the Philistines. He gets to the land of the Philistines, and he kind of buddies up with King Achish of the king of Gath there. And David says to him, after he stayed there for a while, which is about a year and 4 months or so, let me have a place to live in one of the outlying towns so I can just live there and be there. And he's like, all right, you've done some good stuff around here. Okay, you can do it. And that he gave him the town of Ziklag, which still belongs to the kings of Judah today. Now we get down to verse 9 of chapter 27. Whenever David attacked the land or another land that was around him, he never left a single person alive. And there was a reason for this. Neither man nor woman. He took all the flocks, herds, donkeys, and camels and clothing. But when he came back, King Achish would ask him, where'd you go and raid today? And David would tell him, south of Judah, or the south country of the Jerahmeelites, or the south country of the Kenites. He would always say a general area where the Israelites were. And that made Achish think that he was on his side, that he was on the Philistine side when he was, but he never was really too honest about where he was really raiding. It didn't seem. To me, it seemed like he was trying to hide what he was really doing, so the king would like him and let him stay. And he even said so in verse 11, David did not let a man or woman live to be brought to Gath, for he said, or they will inform on us and say, this is what David did. And that was his custom through the whole time. So Achish trusted David. May not have, shoulda, But he thought, since he has made himself repulsive to his own people in Israel, he will be my servant forever. And that is the end of the Bible in 1 year with the preacher's husband for today, day 107. Now remember those Psalms for tomorrow. I hope this has touched you. If there's something that stood out to you, put it in the comment section and let's talk about it. Be sure to hit that like button and that subscribe button, and of course click the little jingle bell so you can get updated the next time I upload a video. And we'll see you then.